Okay, hello everyone, this is video number 10 and we are continuing our journey to the ISS just with the manual ascent where we calculate the launch azimuth and some extra details. So let's just jump right into it. So we need to make sure we arrive at the ISS in daylight, and then we need to match the meeting points. We need to find a meeting point where we're going to meet up at the ISS. Then we need to synchronize the orbits, and at last we need to do the docking. So yeah, that's it for this video. So yeah, so what we need to do now is that we need to make sure that we arrive in daylight, and to do that we need to bring up the map MFD. Let's bring it up right here, and of course target the ISS, spacecraft ISS, and then we can zoom in a little bit. Actually, we don't actually need to target the ISS. We just need to see our orbital path. So okay, so we have the map MFD right here. So the black square here, the black kind of column here, is when it's nighttime, and then the gray kind of column here, square kind of thing right here, is when it's daytime, when it's daylight. So we need to make sure that we arrive in daylight, and we need to bring up orbit MFD also. So to make sure we arrive in daylight, we need to coast around until we get through this nighttime, and when we arrive just about sunrise right here, because it's switching from night to day, we need to do a bit of translation in order to change either the apoapsis or the periapsis. So let's just do that. So let's just start to coast around. Let's just zoom in a little bit. And of course this is us, or Delta glider. So we're about at sunrise right now. So what we need to do now is that we need to go into Procreate right now, right there. And what we need to do now is that we need to press either the 6 or the 9 on the numeric keypad in translation mode with the linear thrusters. So let's just press the 9. And then the apoapsis, because we are raising the orbit with 9, then the apoapsis will become bigger and it will go down to sunrise. And that's about there somewhere, so let's stop it right there. So you just need to get it down to close to where your current position is, and because you move you can just make it go a little bit farther. So yes, so what we need to do now is that what we have actually done is that we have moved, so the meeting point is going to be the apoapsis, because we have matched the apoapsis so that when we arrive at the apoapsis it's going to be like right now, sunrise, and that's where we're going to set our meeting point so that we arrive at the ISS in sunlight. So now we have made sure that we arrive in daylight, so now we need to set up the meeting points, and to do that we need to target the ISS, and then we need to find out the ISS's altitude at our apoapsis. So let's just quit the autopilot of Procreate and just coast around until this yellow line, the ISS's current position, is over top of our apoapsis. So let's check the ISS's altitude when it's at our apoapsis. So let's see. So it's about 361.8, and I'm going to write that down. And then what we need to do is that we need to coast around to the periapsis in order to make a orbital change on the other side, of course. So we are going to raise the apoapsis to 361.8 kilometers. So let's coast around to the periapsis, turn Procreate, and raise the apoapsis. And let's go into the Procreate position because we're about at the periapsis point. And let's stop there, and then let's fire the main engines to get it up to 361.8. And then use translation. The linear thrust is 6 and 9 to get it up to 361.8. That's what I need to get it up to. So yes, so now we have matched the meeting points of our vessel, the Delta Glider, and the ISS. So we are going to meet at our apoapsis, which is going to be at sunrise. So now we need to synchronize the orbits. So we press select and go into sync orbit, and then target, of course, the ISS because we're going to intercept with the ISS. And then we need to press MOD until we get to the not the periapsis, because we could do that if we were to meet with the ISS at the periapsis, but we set it up. We set the sunrise to be at the apoapsis, so we're going to choose the apoapsis. So before we do that, let's bring up the orbit MFD and then just get rid of these numbers by pressing MOD. What we need to do now is that we just need to time warp. We need to make our ship catch up with the ISS a little bit more before we can really do anything. So let's just time warp. And we are pretty close right now. So you can see our relative inclination is still 0.00, and the DT min, which we need to bring down to 0, is 100 exactly. So what we need to do, let's just put these numbers back by pressing MOD. So what we need to do now is that we need to go down here, and then we're either gonna fire the main engines or the retro engines. And I'm just going to pick the Procreate position. You could also pick the retrograde position, because we don't really know if we're going to fire the main or the retro engines. So what we need to do is that we need to open the retro engines by pressing F8. This is just the standard Delta Glider. Then go down until this button where it says retro doors close or open, and then you're going to click it to the open, and then press F8 again and again, so we get these big MFDs. So now the retro doors are open, so we don't have to go into the retrograde position if we were to fire the main engines at Procreate. So let's go into the Procreate position, and when we're about this line, we need to fire the engines to make this DT min go down. And we're about there now, so let's fire the engines. Okay, that was definitely the wrong way, so we need to fire the retro engines. And now the relative inclination is coming up a little bit, but we can get rid of that because we still have 4 orbits to go before we are going to match up with the ISS. So before we do change to this DT min, we just need to get that, and the relative inclination changed because it was a big burn, so that's why it can be raised by that maneuver. So what we need to do is that we need to go to the aligned planes, and this is only if the relative inclination is going up. So let's go into the anti-normal position because we are going to the ascending node. and then we don't have to look at this right now. Let's just focus on getting this to 0.00. And with such a small burn, we just need a 0.01. So that means that we're just going to use the linear thrusters, you know, the translation thrusters, because we don't need such a big burn just to get rid of this 0.01. And let's just fire now, because it's such a small burn. We don't need to do it on beforehand, seconds before, no. And it's 0.00, also in estimated thrust, and relative inclination is 0.00. So what we do now is that now we can bring the DTMN down, because now we have dealt with the relative inclination. So let's just quit the autopilot and then just coast around to this place where we need to burn to get rid of the DTMN. So let's go into the Procreate position again, and now you can see it's sunrise again, and this is the meeting point where we're going to meet, and as you can see it's sunrise when we are going to meet, so that is perfect. So we need to bring this down right now. Use the 6 or 9 on the numeric keypad to bring it down, and it's pretty sensitive, so when you need to get rid of 0.05 small numbers, you know, you press the control and then press 6 or 9, and then it will be finer adjustment, which makes it easier to get it down to exactly 0.00 when it's such small numbers. So now the DTMN is 0.00 and the relative inclination is also 0.00. So we can quit the Procreate autopilot, and now we just need to coast around. So we can just set up the docking MFD with the ISS. So we're going to press target ISS, and you can choose any of these docking ports, but I'm just going to pick the first one. So let's do that, and then you can press hot. So let's just coast around until we get there, and as you can see the DTMN went up. So what we need to do is that we need to go to the Procreate position again. Let's just get the press H to get the orbit HUD up instead of the docking HUD. So and let's fire the engines. The translation thrusters with control 9 or 6. Like that. Okay, so now it's 0.00 again, and the relative inclination is still 0.00. So let's coast around again, quit the Procreate autopilot and see if it is going up again. Yeah, it went up and then went down again. So let's just go to orbit number 1 and then change it. So this is the last correction that we are going to make before we meet up with the ISS. So we need to bring this down to 0.00. Oh. And now it's 0.00, so we can bring up the hot MFD right now. Or I mean the docking MFD, and we can bring up the docking HUD. And just quit the Procreate autopilot. Let's coast around until we meet with the ISS. And at 15 kilometers, we just want to face the velocity vector. You could either burn at the positive velocity vector, as in the autopilot video to orbit in going to the ISS with autopilot in the Delta Glider 4 add-on. Then I showed you that you can fire at the positive velocity vector or the negative velocity vector, and in that way, for example, when you're going to brake, For example, if we were facing the way of the positive velocity vector, we need to fire the retro engines because we need to slow down. But if we just want to fire the main engines without using the retro engines, then we can just close the retro engines doors, and then we can just turn around 180 degrees, and then there will be a negative velocity vector where we can just fire the main engines, and then it would also bring this velocity vector down. So let's phase over to this velocity vector, and before we really do anything, we just want to get closer, so just time warp. And about 7 kilometers we can start getting rid of the velocity of some of the velocities. So right there. Okay, so let's just press rotate and get it to the middle of the velocity crosshair, and let's fire the retro engines. And as you can see, the velocity vector is moving, so you need to go into translation, linear thrusters, and press 1 and 3, 1 to move it to the left, 3 to move it to the right, 8 to move it down, and 2 to move it up. And then you just need to center it on the big crosshair right here. So let's just keep on depleting the velocity. Let's just get it to, yeah, we can keep it at 8. That's a good number. And then we just need to aim it out to these docking squares. So let's just time warp now, and let's bring it out there. Let's time warp until we get a little bit closer. As you can see, the ISS is coming into view right here, and as we can see, we are at sunrise right now. So now we are pretty close to the ISS. So what we need to do now is that we need to deplete some more velocity. Let's get it censored again. And that's fine. And then let's get closer again. And then deplete the velocity when you can't see the docking the docking columns anymore. Let's bring it down to 0. And that's good enough. Rotation. And then let's rotate. Let's rotate. And as we can see, we need to rotate with the 4 and 6 key. We need to rotate. And then as you can see, we need to get up a little bit. But before we do that, we need to kind of align the red cross that is coming into view in just a bit. So press 8 so as you can see, the red cross needs to be centered, and you can control the up and down by using the 8 and 2 with the rotation thrusters, and just a little bit more of 8, and then it is on the horizontal line. So what we need to do now is that we need to use the yaw 3 and 1 on the numeric keypad. This means that we are in the correct position. We don't need to do anything now. The only thing we need to do is that we can rotate, rotate, but we don't have to yaw or pitch up and down because that is done right now. So what we need to do now is use the linear thrusters to get us closer to the ISS and get up. So yeah, so while we are getting closer to the ISS, let's just press K to open the nose cone. And we don't need the retro engines anymore. So let's just go ahead and close them by pressing F8 and then press close and press F8 and F8 again. And now we need to steer again. And as in the autopilot video, it is quite complicated if you haven't done it before, but then I will recommend you to watch the video where we do a automated an automated ascent into orbit, and then you just have to do the orbital maneuvers, which is definitely easier than calculating the launch azimuth and taking off manually and zeroing out the eccentricity, circularizing the orbit. But yeah, when it comes to docking, this is not something I can say on how to do it. You just need to try it for yourself. But when you need to go forward and back and to the side, up and down, so you need to press 8 and 2 to go up and down, and to go to the side press 1 and 3, and to deplete your velocity against going to the space station, you need to press 9. Then as you can see, the velocity is coming down. So what we need to do is that we need to get this yellow crosshair to be exactly or almost exactly on this line. This is the green circle, which is the kind of area where if you this will get smaller and smaller, but the green circle is within the area from where you can dock, so it doesn't have to be exactly at the crosshair right here in the center. So, but yeah, as you can see, we need to go up a bit because this is above the horizontal line, so we need to go up. Then we need to go to the left in order to get it in the center right there, and then let's deplete some of the velocity by pressing 9 with the linear thrusters, of course. And now we are too high, but we are on the line here, on the vertical line, but we're just too high, so let's get down. And now we are too high, we were too low before, and that is where we want to be. So we totally want to do small corrections all the time, because it will change, because the ISS is moving and we are moving, and we're in a orbit around the Earth. So we need to make small corrections all the time. So this will move. Let's press the let's get rid of the velocity, and let's close this down. We are pretty close to the docking port right now. My recorder just shut down because there wasn't enough space apparently, but now it's all working again. We just need to press the HUD, and then we are about to dock again. So let's try it over again. So now we need to raise, and we are pretty close. Let's just deplete some more velocity. And now we are in the center of the crosshair, so we're about to dock with the ISS. And we need to go up a little bit. Let's deplete some more velocity. And like that, and we're about to dock. So it's all about getting the yellow crosshair, which is the ISS, to in perfect center. And as you can see, the green circle is shrinking in, which is the area from within you can dock if you're not exactly on point. So now we dock with the ISS. And so we did a manual ascent into orbit. We zeroed out the eccentricity, aligned the plane. We made sure that we arrived in daylight. We set up our meeting point. We synchronized the orbit, and then we did the docking. And of course, we also calculated the launch azimuth and such. But this was it for this video about going to the ISS. So now we have two ways in getting to the ISS. A very easy one with an automated ascent, and then we have a more calculated one, a more advanced one, but still a beginner's guide, kind of about calculating the launch azimuth, and then of course also the manual ascent. But that was it for this video, so let's see what we are going to do in the next video. See you guys.